It is the 200 level, Mike Carpenter in the basement studio on a Tuesday evening, gathering my bearings as it's usually a Wednesday afternoon, but it's a bye week, and we are not here to talk about football. We're here to talk about basketball. Before I get started with that, this is kind of arbitrary, I guess, but this is episode 500 of the 200 level, and it would have been nice if it aligned with some huge Illini moment. Like, let's say we would have beaten Ohio State back in October, and then we could have done the 500th episode for that. But that's okay. I just wanted to briefly say that I appreciate all those who listen and watch, who interact, stop by the tailgate, say hi at basketball games or bowl games or wherever. One of my favorite parts of doing this is those interactions with fellow Illini fans. And I hope that when they approach me and just say hi, that they know I'm just a fan like you. There is a really cool kind of kindred spirit thing going on when you're part of the same fandom. And I hope that over the years, if you've been listening or watching, that this has just become hopefully an outlet for you as a fan as well. There are ups and there are downs. There have fortunately been many more ups in the last 5 years. And really, since we started this back in 2019, it's not been a bad run at all for Illinois Revenue Sports. And I started this as a sort of stay fresh while waiting for another radio gig. And that didn't come to fruition, but that's okay. As much fun as I had at 93.5, I really love the podcasting format, and I like the ability to just kind of come on here and just yammer about, and hopefully I do so in a somewhat focused way to make it interesting for you. So this has been a lot of fun, and hopefully we got 500 or 5,000 more. I mean, I don't know. At this rate, 500 episodes since me and Steve Breitweiser started it back at 93.5 in 2017. And at that rate, 2017 to 2025, every 8 years, we got 500 episodes. Does that mean maybe our 1,000th episode will be at a time when Illinois won a national title in basketball by 2032? And maybe Brett Bielema has made a few college football playoff appearances. I don't know what the future holds, but I love doing this. I really appreciate you guys for your support, for the support with the book, all that stuff throughout the years. And it's just, listen, for me, there's a little bit of selfishness in here as well. I love Illinois sports, so this is my outlet for it to come on here behind a microphone and just talk about Illinois football and basketball. And even when it's not good, I still enjoy talking about it. Well, the thing is, it has been good, and that includes last night against Jackson State. So enough about the commemoration of 500 episodes, other than a thank you and a lot of gratitude from me. I appreciate it. Illinois basketball looked really good against a really bad team last night. And I don't know about you, but I kind of had this little check myself moment. The game started, and I noticed I was kind of passively watching it because I'm not in basketball mode yet. I know it's a bye week for football. I know it's November, and basketball always starts this way, but it's kind of Brett Bielema's fault here. We're relevant in November in football for the 5th straight year, and I haven't made that transition yet. Now, by the time Illinois plays Texas Tech a week from tonight, as I'm recording this, trust me, it'll be all systems go here. Like, then it is truly both sports coexisting. But last night felt like sit back on the couch, relax, have a drink, watch the game. Did not pod, one, because I didn't think it'd be that compelling of a game, and it wasn't as far as close. But two, my wife was, well, just as of now, is flying to Tokyo and then Singapore. So we wanted to be able to spend some time together, and we just watched the game on the couch with the dog and had a nice relaxing evening before she's gone for a week. So it was actually kind of nice to just watch a game, not have any immediate reactions, and just enjoy the game for what it was, which was a good old ass kicking. And I'm not going to extrapolate too many things from this game as far as what Illinois basketball may or may not be this year. But I would be lying if I said it wasn't promising. And that is really down to a few individual players that stood out and a few returning guys that look really good. We'll get to all of them. I wanted to start with the macro, though, and that is, what was the thing that kept last year's team from having a kind of season that was truly memorable? And I think where Illinois basketball is at right now, that includes either a banner of some kind, So Big Ten regular season or tournament championship, which Brad Underwood has between those 3 of them. Or a second weekend trip in the NCAA tournament, which Brad Underwood has 1. God, is this year 8 or 9 for Brad Underwood? I forget, but it's getting close to 10. Last year's team did not reach one of those memorable milestones because the defense stunk. And boy, oh boy, was that not a recurring bit on this show. But it was what it was. It was right in front of us. Same way Aaron Henry's been right in front of us for football. It was right in front of us for basketball. It wasn't good enough, and it cost you games, and it cost you against Kentucky. An okay Kentucky team, fine, one of the weaker 3 seeds, I think, and they just boat raced you because it couldn't stop them. So, oddly enough, one of the first things I noted yesterday was the seating arrangement on the bench. And who's sitting next to Brad Underwood? But Cam Crocker, the so-called defensive coordinator. And I thought, man, not to make a mountain out of a molehill, but that's good. I have spoken positively and negatively about Brad Underwood. It is mostly positive. The record speaks for itself. He does have an ability to adapt and change, I think in a macro sense, that many coaches have either refused to do or just are slower to do. He knows the game of basketball, so I don't question that Brad Underwood is a very smart basketball mind. But for whatever reason, if there is such a thing as a blind spot for him, it is the ability to adapt in-game when something isn't working. Now, for the most part, Illinois' offense has been good to very good the last few years. The defense has been spotty, and most of your failures have come as a result of that side of the ball. So when I see Cam Crocker as the guy sitting next to Brad Underwood, if that's overreactive on my part, fine, but that makes me very happy and makes me think, okay, Brad is aware of their deficiencies and is willing to listen to someone that has a better idea what to do. Now, I don't know if Cam Crocker is going to turn out to be this defensive savant. I'm not sure. I hope so. But even if he just makes this a moderate to good defense, you have an offense that's going to score a bunch of points. So when you couple those things together, that is already a step ahead of last year, where your defense was god-awful from basically January 1st on, and you had no ability to change it, and frankly didn't have the athletes with lateral enough speed to make that big of a difference. Well, I don't know if the athleticism is crazy on this team, but I know they got size, and I know they are older, and I know that now we have the defense in the hands of someone that apparently has a good pedigree with it. It just struck me last night watching the game, and I thought, okay, Brad, good on you. Because just like 2 years ago when they made the Elite Eight, his roster construction was a direct reaction to what did not work the year before. All those freshmen, fine, I'll go older. I learned, and we're going to be better next year. Last year, they went a little too young again, and their defense killed them. Okay, fine, we'll go older, and I will get a guy to actually run the defense. Hey, whether you say better late than never, or you say that's Brad Underwood at his absolute best, I would go with either one. It's just reassuring to know he is not too stubborn to make changes. So kudos to him for that, and I hope it pays dividends for this season. And I didn't expect the assistant coach and where he sat on the bench to be my lead, but I think for as critical as I have been of Brad Underwood in a micro sense, I also want to emphasize people that overall I wouldn't trade him for many basketball coaches, and that is a macro example of why that's the case. Now, I know we got some people watching here on YouTube, on Twitter, Facebook. Do me a favor, whatever you thought of the game last night or your early thoughts of this basketball team, throw them in the chat thread, and we'll read those as we go along here. Listen, there was not a compelling game per se to talk about, and there was not much adversity for Illinois, but damned if there wasn't a lot of little treats and nuggets throughout the game with these individuals that we did see on the court. And we will, of course, talk about those that did not play and when we hope to maybe see them. But before I get too far ahead of myself, got to remind you the 200 level is brought to you by Deep. I about did it. I about did it out of routine. For those that have listened for a long time, DPDO is a longtime sponsor. We love those guys. But calzones are a little bit different than a bone-in steak. And I think hopefully that was as good of a transition as I can get. But what I used to be able to speak to with DPDO, I can certainly speak to with Hamilton Walkers, as I am a recurring customer of theirs, a loyal customer of theirs, because it's just simply that good. Steak, seafood, and spirits. So whatever you're in the mood for, whether it be, man, one of the best meals I ever had was the night that we did the book release there. Chilean sea bass. I'd never had Chilean sea bass. And I swear to God, it was one of the best meals I've ever had. It's not always on the menu. It's a special, so you might get lucky. But even if it's not the special the night that you go, bone-in steak, medium for me, for many, medium rare. Steak fries on the side, family style, so you get to share them at the table. Green beans or asparagus, depending on our mood. And then you get bread beforehand. I love any place that gives you bread. And I get a little side Caesar salad. And let's not forget an old-fashioned to kick things off. Best old-fashioned in town. Hamilton Walker's is my favorite restaurant in Champaign-Urbana. You can check out a picture of me right behind the host stand. I'm there. Lon is there. Harry and Trevor are there. All the old gang from 93.5. So, Hamilton Walker's in downtown Champaign. Steak, seafood, and spirits. Also, State Farm agent Brian Hansen online at brianismyguy.com. For life, auto, home, business, renters, you name it, Brian is my guy, and he could be your guy as well at brianismyguy.com. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend. Call them at 217-841-4728. Join their maintenance program. My wife and I have been a part of this, and what that means is you get a furnace check in the fall and an AC check in the spring. And in addition to that, no overtime or weekend fees, guaranteed same-day service. It is such a good deal, too. We do this every year. It's been our third year running with them, and it just makes our HVAC concerns non-existent because we know they're taking care of us. And right now, our AC and our furnace, they've been purring like a kitten, and that system is 15 years old and had no issues with it since Dogtown came into play. So that's 217-841-4728. Finally, Owen Builders LLC, online at owenbuildersllc.com. For your next home improvement project, check out a gallery of their work and get a free quote while you're there at owenbuildersllc.com. Appreciate Luke and his staff over there. All Illini fans, pretty sure that everybody that is a sponsor of the pod are Illini fans, if that counts for something, and they're all local. So we appreciate them. And I didn't say thank you during the opening to our sponsors, but really, listen, I would do this for free. I would. But it does mean a lot to have sponsors that know they're reaching Illini fans, and hopefully that's your guys. All I ask for in return is just, your patronage at these places would be appreciated because they're all good. I would not come in here and bloviate about a bunch of crap and say, hey, guys, you should go to blank restaurant if it actually sucked. No, I wouldn't do that. I'm not that much of a shill for money. All right. Got a couple comments, I think, starting to line up there. And again, just general thoughts with the Illinois game last night and what you saw. And what most of this podcast will be about are the individuals that we watched on the court last night. And I kind of break it down into three groups that we watched on the court. The first one is a just formidable front court. I love alliteration, so I'm going to say formidable front court. Your 5 and your 4, starting 5, starting 4 for the whole year. Tomislav, Ivisic, David Mirkovic. I expected as much based on what we heard about Mirkovic in the offseason. I'm no scout, but the tape looked good, and he's got size. Holy crap. I don't know the last time through an exhibition and a regular season game I've been this excited about an Illini big man. Kofi was big, and he was your standard Shaquille O'Neal era 5. That was exciting, no doubt. 11 points, 10 rebounds in his debut. You knew what he was. He was a big lug that was going to be hard to handle in the paint. I don't want to say he lacked versatility, but because that sounds like an insult, but no, he was what he was, and he excelled at that. Kofi excited me, of course. Tomislav Ivisic to an extent last year. Dame Danger excited me, I remember early on, as a freshman, or I guess it would have been redshirt freshman here. And I know that was up and down, and certainly he ended on a very high note here in that Elite 8 run. But I cannot think of the last time a big excited me like this. David Mirkovic is remarkably polished. I watch him and you think, man, this guy is maybe on the verge of being out of control because he's so almost acrobatic out there. It's even funny because I was texting with Trevor and Isaac noted, do you see his running style? It's kind of interesting. His arms kind of like a dinosaur, like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. They're just kind of flopping up there. It doesn't matter. The guy's a freak athlete. He's got great handles. He can shoot. He's an excellent rebounder. He's got size enough to be a good post defender. And he's got enough speed to jump out to the perimeter and guard his opposing four if that's a shooter. What can he not do? I know, consider the competition, but by all accounts, he had a pretty good exhibition against Florida in that close scrimmage. I expected him to be a solid 4, but I think you probably have a reliable borderline, if not borderline, but complete star in that lineup to add to Tomislav, Ivisic, and Kylan Boswell as the 4 sures on this team, and probably Stojakovic when he comes back. I am super excited about David Mirkovic. And yeah, I was excited about KJ. And why not? The guy was fantastic. Then after that injury, he was hot and cold with some amazing moments, but a little bit of inconsistency. So you might say, well, Carp, haven't you gotten excited about guys before and then they frustrate you throughout the year? Of course. Here's where I think this actually bodes well for Illinois. You are not asking David Mirkovic to be the superstar on your team. You're not asking him to be a point guard or facilitator or the number one option. He gets to play within the flow of the offense without any undue pressure. He gets to just be himself. And because of that, because you're not asking for him to do anything more than what he's already capable of doing, I worry a little bit less about, oh, God, here goes Mirkovic with that 6-turnover game. And, oh, what is Mirkovic doing out there? I saw this weird comment on the Illini Inquirer pod this morning, and someone compared him to Georgie in an almost negative way. Like, oh, man, he's going to drive us nuts just like Georgie did, because Georgie was a little haphazard with the ball, right? Georgie was a goof. I don't see that. I see basically a professional basketball player. I don't know how many years we're going to have Mirkovic. I think his game probably translates to the NBA. He's got height. He's got size. He's got speed. He can shoot the 3. He can play around the rim. He's got it all. I know it's 2 games, but I think it's probably okay to get pretty excited about David Mirkovic and say that dude might be a star. Okay, well, if we got that, and you got Tomislav Ivisic, who ho-hum quietly, 20 points. I'll get the stats to make sure they're accurate here. But, yeah, like you blink, and all of a sudden Tomislav has double digits. First game back, he did not play in the exhibition. I know he had, tonsillitis 2 weeks ago. The guy's gone through the gamut of every American ailment that one could come through. He's probably like, God, get me back home already. I got to deal with this crap. But he's healthy. He looked great. Ivisic, 21 points, 9 of 12 shooting. Yes, I know Jackson State was small. 9 of 12 shooting, 3 of 6 from 3. By the way, Mirkovic, who I mentioned, 19 points, 14 rebounds. He had a double-double at halftime. Or close, 11 points and 9 boards at halftime. 4 assists to boot, 2 turnovers. For as much as he's handling the ball, that's fine. That's your 4 and your 5. Those 2 guys, if you needed them to, could play 30 minutes together on the court. They will not be asked to do that very much. Meaning at end-of-game situations, last 7-8 minutes of a game, you put them back out there for the closing stretch, they will be fresh. I would ask you to go find me a better 4 or 5 in the Big Ten. Now, I hate to bring this up. Morez Johnson had 21 points at halftime yesterday. The dude's a beast. It made me a little bile rose in my throat when I saw him wearing that maize and blue garbage. I wish we would have handled that better on our end, but also Morez's dad sounds like he wanted him to shoot threes. Well, Morez did shoot 2 threes in the first half. He went 0 for 2. Would I love Morez on this team? Yes. Do I think David Mirkovic might be a better player and a better fit? Yes. Why couldn't Morez have gone to another conference or just any other team in the conference not named Michigan? Why Michigan? Whatever. These kids don't care about rivalries, and maybe why should they? He's probably getting compensated handsomely. Regardless, David Mirkovic and Ivisic together, that is a hell of a combination. Your formidable front court. That's 1. 2, steady veterans. Kylan didn't have to do a lot last night. He got to just run the show. He was asked to play a lot of minutes because your only other really point guard out there was Blake Fagbemi. Can I get this out of the way? Enjoyed the telecast last night with Bruce Weber and Kevin Kugler. Bruce is very relaxed when he calls a game, and I really like that. I know he doesn't have the best voice, but he's not stressing it when he's doing color commentary. He's having a great time. I think Kugler mentioned, or was it Bruce? Whoever brought it up, that Brad Underwood told them, Blake Fagbemi, he said, guys, you aren't going to believe me when I say this, but Blake Fagbemi is the best athlete I've ever coached. Brad, we love you. You are a little bit prone to hyperbole, a lot of bit prone to hyperbole. You just kind of laugh, you grin, but it's also like, can't you just give a compliment like, hey, he's quick? I know he was trying to build up his guy. That's kind of sweet of him, but Blake Fagbemi is not even the most athletic guy off the bench. Probably not. That's probably going to be Brandon Lee when he's healthy. And regardless, no, he's not the most athletic guy you've ever had. Why would you say that? It'd be like saying, I know Frank Williams is good, but that Nate Mast is probably the best point guard I've ever coached. Imagine if Bill Self had said that. We'd look at each other, what the hell? And that's no slight to Nate Mast. He was a good player, but Frank was Frank. So in a program that just had Terrence Shannon Jr. 2 years ago, who's the best athlete I've ever seen play for Illinois, who could have fit on the final on, I had no problem. I don't think that Blake Fagbemi is the best athlete he's ever coached. Just a hunch. Just saying. Anywho, enough of that diatribe there. We love his hyperbole. It's funny. Just whatever. Okay, so the veteran leadership I speak of, the steady veterans, Colin Boswell, he goes out there ho-hum, no big deal, drops 10, 5, and 5. He only had one turnover. And, wasn't asked to do much, played 28 minutes. I think that you see, though, when he's on the court, he's a steady hand. I think that you can sense the way that other players view him. And if this sounds a little cheesy, fine, so be it. Look up to him, and I understand why. This guy's been playing basketball, college basketball, since he was 17. He's been through it. I think the way that last season ended really endeared him to the rest of his teammates, and I think showed a lot as far as where he is at in the pecking order in the locker room. So he comes out, he does his thing. He knows that there's other guys that can be the primary scorers, and he facilitates, and he rebounds, and he defends. Everything you would have asked from him, very efficient. Okay, good. I got to throw Jake Davis in the mix. I have a friend, I might have mentioned this before. His name's Asher, and I don't know if Asher listens to this podcast regularly or not, but he has this awesome hair. He has Robert Plant hair. And from the minute Jake Davis stepped on campus with that hair, me and my friends and my wife, and like we're all just like, that's Asher. Asher in the flesh playing Illinois basketball. So I've already had an affinity for Jake Davis based on that appearance and his likeness to my friend. But I liked him last year too, and I think a lot of us did. He played a role that you don't often see in college basketball, which is the trusty guy off the bench. And then he says, fine, I'll come back. I'm not going to be a starter. I'm probably not going to get 20 minutes a game, but I got a role. He could have easily said, you know what, I'm going to drop down a level in order to get 25 to 30 minutes a game, but he didn't do that. He could play for a group of 5 team, or whatever the equivalent is in basketball. He could have went to a lower rung power conference team and probably got a bigger opportunity, but he stayed. And he gets the start last night because Stojakovic doesn't play. Okay. Makes the most of it. I mean, he's got a great shot. So I think he will have a role no matter what on this team. Sorry, I just lost my stats here. Jake Davis ends up dropping, what is this here? 13 points, 5-11 shooting, 3 for 8 from 3. Okay, so he shot a bunch back there. And even though it's not shooting 50%, what's 3 of 8? Is that, I think, 38%? So not bad at all. I really like just his activeness, or I guess activity would be the word, but he's just all over the court. We saw 4 boards, 4 assists from him. I know he's not maybe the best defender, but I think he's okay. He's got size. Maybe he's not the quickest side to side, but I thought, kept his guys in front of him. I think he's going to be good for 12 minutes a game, no problem. I won't feel like, Jake Davis is on the court, there's going to be a drop-off. I think his spot in the rotation is secure. So he gets the start last night because of injury, but he made the most of it, and I trust him. I do trust him. So Good to see that. So you got the veterans with Kylan and Jake Davis making an impression. The offensive breakouts. Can we give some flowers to Ben Humrichous? Last year was a journey for Ben. I thought Brad Underwood did him no favors. Come in here, kid, from Evansville. You're the starting 4. Go. All offseason, talking him up. Brad Underwood, hyperbole. You see, Lou Henson did that with opponents. We could be playing Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, Tech A&M Junior the third, and he would kiss their butts as if they were a blue blood program coming into then Assembly Hall in front of 4,000 Illini fans during the Illini Pepsi Classic. He would have done that. But he didn't talk about his own team like that. So, I mean, Brad Underwood, say what you want, but he does build up his own team. Well, he built up Ben Humrichous, and I thought really to his disadvantage. And then he insisted upon starting him and playing him 28, 30 minutes a game over and over when clearly there was a lack of confidence, thinking that if we just keep bashing our head against the wall, eventually we'll break through. And it never quite clicked for Ben until towards the end of the year, when finally you took the gas off a little bit and just let him run out there free off the bench sometimes and just play loose, unburden him. They finally unburdened him, and this year I think it's a great spot for Ben. I know it's one game. I know it's against Jackson State, and I know for a darn fact there will be other games this year where he is not making his shots. We're thinking, come on, man, what are you here for? But there is something to be said about the second year in a system. A transfer in his second year with the program often takes a jump. I don't think it'll be any exception for Ben. Keep him off the bench. He looked so confident and loose and free. The one time he drove it to the lane, the one time that he drove and almost did a tomahawk dunk, and I know he didn't land it, but dude was playing loose. And there is nothing better, I would imagine, for a shooter like him than to be loose and not be burdened with, you're the starting 4, go bang around with guys that are physically superior to you. He doesn't have to do that this year. If the matchup doesn't call for it, put him at the 3. You can. We saw it last night a little bit. There were lineups where Jason Jatskis and Big Z and Ben Humrichous were out there, and he had 3 guys that were 6'10" or more. Yeah, there'll be times when he's at the 3. They did it against Jackson State. They can darn well do it. And look at me, I'm not cursing tonight. Against any team that has taller guys, they can do it. So I was really heartened by what I saw with Ben last night. You consider the opponent, but he looked bigger. He looked looser. He looked more free. There was a weight that accumulated on his shoulders last year. It wasn't fair to him. Yes, we were critical of him. But as the year went on, I think my criticism was more levied towards the coaching staff. Eventually, you got to put your players in a position to succeed. This feels much more like a position in which he can succeed. And similar to Colin Boswell and Jake Davis. I mean, Ben's another veteran. This is his second year in the program. I put him in this offensive explosion category with one other guy just because of the numbers. But, man, if that doesn't help to have a steady hand that's been there before, I would imagine he's very well respected in that locker room. And just a great performance from him. I mean, the box score bears it out. I mentioned this sort of like intangible, the confidence, the way he looked yesterday. But 21 points, 6 of 11 shooting, 5 for 9 from 3, 4 for 6 from the line, 5 boards, 2 assists, no turnovers. Again, consider the opponent, but that is a fantastic start for Ben Humrichous. We didn't ever really get that kind of looseness from, with the exception, let's see, at Oregon last year, he had an explosion out there. There were a couple others where he got into the 20s, but to get that game one off the bench and kind of feel like this is what his role is going to be, I would imagine that he will relish that. And while he won't be hitting all those shots that consistently, the guy is still an offensive threat. And I think will be more so than he was last year. So that worked out really well. He ends up logging 20 minutes. That's it. 20 minutes a game of Ben Humrichous is good. And he can be a microwave, and he can light it up. And on 20 minutes, you can probably disguise whatever defensive deficiencies he has. The other offensive explosion I got to talk about, Keaton Wagler. And I guess it is Wagler, because that's 2 telecasts in a row where that's how they've said it. He looked like a freshman for the first 15 minutes of the game. And then it appeared something clicked. He settled in. I think the hype behind him may be real. Now, I'm not going to put him in the for sure category that I would Kylan Boswell, Andrei Stojakovic, David Mirkovic, and Tomislav Ivisic. Those four will start all year, and I can almost bank on what each four of them are going to do consistently. That's more than I could say for last year, where there were not four guys that I can bank on in any given game. Those 4 out of 5 of the starting lineup I can bank on. I don't know if I can bank on a freshman, and the good news is you don't have to. Last year, you had to bank on KJ or Will being big out of the backcourt or the wing position. You don't need that from Keaton Wagler. So back to this idea of Ben Humrichous. He's unburdened because he's not saying, all right, Ben, you must be maybe the third leading scorer on this team. There were people before the season thinking that he might be the leading scorer because of opportunities. And, I mean, there were times where we thought, next Marcus Damask. It was borderline Alex Legion territory, the way that he was getting built up. Didn't work out. Not fair to him. This is not going to happen with Keaton Wagler. The spotlight is never going to be on him when he's on the court with Kylan Boswell, Andrei Stojakovic, David Mirkovic, Tomislav Ivisic. He will be 1 of 5. He will not be 1 of 1 or 1 of 2. He won't be the focal point of an opposing defense's game plan. They will have to account for him, but they cannot overly account for him because they got to put other bandwidth into the other players on the court. So what an opportunity for him as a freshman. There's going to be nights where he's off. There's going to be nights where he doesn't go for 18 points. There's going to be nights where he looks like the first 15 minutes of last night and not the last 25. But when he settled in, drawing fouls, I mean, this guy's ability and instinct to know how to get the defender to jump and lean into it and go to the line. And he eventually made, 4 of 6, I think, after missing his first 2. I want to make sure I get that right with Wagler. Sorry, 8 of 10. 8 of 10. He missed 2 early free throws and then just started making them. It was like within one game, the pace and rhythm of college basketball sort of clicked in for him. And he's going to have some bad games against good teams because that's what will happen with freshmen. But it's just so reassuring to know that we are not asking Keaton Wagler to be Will Riley. We are not asking that. And to borrow this comment from Jacob as we talk about it, Wagler reminds me of Will Riley with longer arms. That's a hot take. Well, Will Riley's in the NBA right now. I think decent start to his rookie year. He's got length. He does have long arms. He's got the hair a little bit too. Jacob, I don't know if Keaton Wagler is going to have Will Riley numbers because I don't think he's going to have Will Riley volume. But I do think that he can have a really efficient, really good freshman year. And maybe withstand some of those valleys. And maybe from a rotational perspective. I mean, think if you're Brad Underwood here and you get into that inevitable mid-December, early January swoon with your freshmen. It's going to happen. Happened to Will Riley last year. It happens to most freshmen, whether it's that period or another 4 to 6 week period. It's okay if it does, if you get Petrovic back by then. And then we'll talk about the injuries here in a second. But really encouraging. Here's your starting lineup for the year. Even when Petrovic comes back. Your starting lineup is Kylan Boswell at the 1, Keaton Wagler at the 2, Andrei Stojakovic at the 3, David Mirkovic at the 4, Tomislav Ivisic at the 5. I love that starting lineup. I really do. And I don't know what the ceiling is, but I am comfortable saying the floor isn't as low as last year. Not when you've got the game experience of Kylan and Tommy within the program, of Andrei Stojakovic in his 4th year at a Power 4 program, with all the college basketball minutes he's played. Not with David Mirkovic, who's played pro ball in Europe. And yeah, Keaton Wagler is a freshman, and there's going to be some games where it just ain't working, but that's 1 out of 5. You can afford that in a starting lineup. And then you got the depth coming off the bench. I like Jake Davis for 12 minutes a game. I like Ben Humrichous for 20. I think that was very, very deliberate, I should say, from a rotational perspective to play Ben Humrichous 20 when he could have played him more yesterday. That's the role. Get him into it now. Let him find that groove and keep it, because he seems like a guy that more rhythm he has, the better. And if he can just be that 20-minute hot microwave off the bench, great. A couple other guys last night to bring up. Big Z, quiet offensively, but he did have 9 boards. He had 2 blocks. He had no turnovers. Listen, I saw the comparison earlier on Illini Inquirer's chat about Mirkovic and Georgie. No, Big Z is Georgie. 7'2" Georgie. Probably more talented. He will drive us nuts. I guarantee it. He will at points this year. But what was it last night? He played 19 minutes. I would say there's more games where he doesn't crack 20 minutes than games when he does. I think the long-term play is you will be the starting center next year. You will be playing with your brother this year. And that this is a developmental thing. He's not going to go pro. Like, he is 7'2", but he would not get drafted. A year with his brother and then a year as the starting center, that will get him drafted. So I think there is a plan there. I think he's probably okay with it. Blake Fagbemi, the most athletic guy Brad Underwood has ever coached. 14 minutes, 2 points. He's not really going to factor into this. He's not. Great story, but Brad, you silly goose. And Jatskis. Am I saying that right? It's an awkward name to say for some reason for me. 12 minutes, 2 points, 9 boards. He's tall. He's a big dude. So maybe that is another developmental piece. He's still in the program. Second year with it, right? Is he a sophomore? I'd have to double check here. But regardless, yeah. And then a little bit of love to Austin Red, or AJ Red, excuse me, who got some playing time yesterday and finishes with 3 points. Jackstis. Why am I having such a hell of a time saying that? Info. Well, I need to check his eligibility and where he's at. But hey, that was a promising evening of basketball. Now, the not so promising part to wrap things up, injuries and where Illinois stands with that. Okay. Andrei Stojakovic, I would understand that they're playing this slow. The guy is immensely important to you. Your ceiling is so high with a guy like that, I feel like. And that's why, yesterday I can't make a determination on the ceiling because I didn't see them with Andrei Stojakovic. I don't think we'll be able to make a determination like that until probably mid-December, if not into January, because there are enough new pieces on this team. Stojakovic is a polished scorer. Whenever he's ready to go, I think he'll be ready to go. And not 30 minutes a game, probably 20. The key thing will be, do you see him on Friday night? And if you do, 15 minutes, off the bench, start Jake again, work Andre in, then boom, he's starting on Tuesday. You have a full week before you play Texas Tech. And it sounded from Jeremy's pod and from those around that he could have played last night, but what's the point? You got more reps for other people. There's value in that. He knows what to do when the time is called. And I have no doubt that he will be very good. Then you got Mihailo Petrovic, who maybe that's more long-term, maybe a few weeks or something. You don't need him yet. You will need him eventually for higher aspirations as a backup ball handler to spell Kylan. Kylan can probably get away with it for now because Keaton Wagler can handle the ball too. I mean, Wagler is the key that unlocks so much more for this team, because my concern before Wagler all of a sudden became Will Riley Part 2 was, well, how many guards do you have? So what an evaluation by them to bring in this guy. Now he can take off some of those ball handling duties from Kylan, who would be exhausted by January otherwise. Though in Kylan's defense, he's probably built in a way where he would not actually be exhausted. He's physically a specimen. But Petrovic is someone that I think you can slow play a little bit more. You don't need him, not yet. This whole game is predicated on speed and burst, so you better get him healthy before you throw him out there, because you just don't need to. And the chances of him coming out 80% and they say, go, be Mihailo Petrovic, according to everything we hear about him, just seems ripe for a re-injury or something like that. So get him healthy. I think sooner rather than later they will be. You can afford it a little bit this time of year, but that was a promising night. It was not a good team, fine, but you beat them 113-55. And it was fun and enjoyable basketball, and I know it's more fun when the shots fall. Couple things to hit before we get out of here. One, you are not going to be hitting about 50% of your threes in most games, obviously. Do I think there'll be a better shooting team than last year? Yes. Can you get 35 to 38% of your threes made consistently? If you do, then you will automatically be good for another few wins. And that right there is the difference between the 6 seed they got last year and the 3 seed they got the year before. That is a 4-game difference maybe in the regular season, 4 or 5 games. That would flip it, along with just a defense that doesn't completely suck sometimes. And that will be, we'll TBD on that. But I thought a good first defensive performance, and I'm going to have to really kind of pay attention to see what exactly differently they're doing, and maybe a smarter basketball mind could let me know what systematically has changed, though. Are we really going to know that until some of these bigger games? Okay, so the 3-pointers, of course, encouraging. Almost tied or set the school record for it. Great. That's not going to happen most nights. I understand that, but I do want, if they got the open shots, just like last year, keep shooting it. But here's the good news. You got the size with which, if it's not falling, then just go down low. And I know one could argue that they had that last year, but they didn't have the depth in the front court like they did. They didn't have a guy like Andrei Stojakovic, who was a good mid-range threat, which he will be. And I know that's a little counterintuitive to what this offense wants to do, but they sold Stojakovic on the ability to be Andrei Stojakovic. That does include mid-range shots. And then you see Kylan can get to the rim. Keaton Wagler can get to the rim and get to the free throw line. So, on those nights where it's not hitting, will the bottom get as low as it did last year? I mean, just think about this, guys. You made the tournament last year, you got a 6 seed, with valleys as low as any Brad Underwood team since his first 2 seasons. If you just raise that floor, this is going to be so much smoother of a year and more enjoyable. Last year, I'm sorry. And we are now victims of our own success. So that's a great place to be in, trust me. But was last year one of my favorite Brad Underwood years? No. What was more enjoyable, last year or the Matthew Meyer year? I guess probably last year. But since Brad Underwood's made this a program that is relevant and makes tournaments, last year was probably my second least favorite. And the Matthew Meyer year was my least favorite. Not just because of Matthew Meyer, but for a multitude of reasons. That year was a mess. But here's the good news. That's the floor for this program under Brad Underwood. That is a credit to him. I do think that this team is very interesting and that they're older and they're bigger. They can shoot. If they can defend, then we are really cooking. And that just affords you an opportunity, I feel like, to get a higher seed in the tournament in 6. Maybe back to that 3 line like you did 2 years ago. And that opens up so many more avenues to make a run than if you are a 5 or a 6. And I'm anxious to see if they can do that. But it was a promising start. One last thing before I get out of here, I was thinking to myself, who's going to be the leading scorer on this team? Who is going to be the leading scorer? I think because of usage and how much the offense runs through him, I'll say Tomislav Ivisic. I think that's a safe bet, and probably, betting odds would be in favor of that. Who would be the second leading scorer on this team? Is it Stojakovic when he returns? I could see that. Or is it Mirkovic? Question. Do any of your starting 5 not average double digits? I think they all do. I'd have to go back historically and see how common that is. I feel like it's not that common. I feel like all 5 of these guys are double-digit scorers. You're going to score a lot of points this year. If you stay healthy, you are going to score a lot of points. Offense is not a concern. It is not. If the defense can figure itself out, and that's a process, then time to be pretty pumped. But you know what? Here's the thing. This is a vow that I will try to keep. I did not keep last year because things were so mercurial, and they got high, and then they got so freaking low. And I didn't like certain trends, especially defensively. They were making me think, what are we doing here? And a little period there in February where it felt like, is this team even mentally, what's going on? Are they mentally there? Are we falling apart at the seams? I can already feel as if this will be a much more enjoyable endeavor. Now, that is partially on my 39-year-old ass for not getting all, getting my panties in a bunch if things don't go exactly to plan. That could be on me for being a mature adult and not allowing myself to do that. But I do just think objectively, there's a really good likelihood that this team is going to give us a pretty fun ride here, because I thought last night was aesthetically pleasing basketball. And Defensively, that will click into play, but they're going to be great rebounders all year. You don't have size like that and not be pretty good at rebounding. And see Mirkovic in action, I think that really gives even more faith because Ivisic, good rebounder. Both Ivisics. Ivisic, like, I don't know, what's the plural? Mirkovic is as well. I think Andrei Stojakovic, we'll see what he is at the 3, but you know Boswell is, and we'll see if Wagler can't get down there. I think rebounding will be good. The shooting will be good, or certainly better than last year, because it just kind of has to be. You instead of reverting to the mean, you're progressing to the mean. And yeah, you got some really cool tests coming up, starting with Texas Tech next Tuesday. Now, we will be here on Friday for the second half of the Florida Gulf Coast game and discuss that. We'll either do that or we'll do Saturday morning. I don't know. It's tough because Friday nights, the game's fun. Do we do that or do we just do Saturday morning podcast? Going to think on it, but I know for a fact at the latest, the Texas Tech game would be a second half podcast, unless I get an opportunity to go. I'll put it this way. Football season, I did the Wednesday midweek and then the Sunday reaction. With basketball season, we're going to be much more as the games happen, and I will keep you guys posted when we do the second half live ones. But good start. It's fun. Illinois basketball's back. It is fun. There's a reason I wrote a book about it, because I love it. Even when I hate it, I love it. And it seems like an intriguing group this year. And we got a lot of games to go. It'll go quick. It always does. But we got one down, and hopefully, 29 more regular season, then you throw in another 3 or 4 in the Big Ten tournament. And maybe if we're lucky enough, 3, 4, or, oh, God, please, 5 in March in the NCAA tournament. Can we make a run this year? Wouldn't that be something? But it's that special time of year, November. Football, basketball going on simultaneously. A lot of fun. A couple things before we get out of here. With all due respect, this is St. Dom. With all due respect to Will Riley, he wasn't that good for half the season. St. Dom, it was basically early on some fireworks, and then he was quiet in December through mid-January. So certainly I mentioned the 4 to 6 week window. And yeah, he had his own struggles. And you're right, St. Dom, I was at this game. He came alive at Michigan State last season. I was at that, and it was like, okay, well, he's back. There's the NBA draft prospect, because it felt for a little bit like he might have even been falling out of that conversation. From Peter, need a picture of your new tailgate setup, Carp. Peter, we took the maiden voyage on Saturday. What a time. And we are getting some aesthetic things together. We came up with a logo and a name. It will unveil at the Maryland tailgate, which is a 2:30 start. And that means get there at 7, enjoy the whole day in the lots. Maybe this is the tough thing when you got a good tailgate rig. Oh boy, I know the stadium's right there, but the big TV and the tailgate rig is right there. From Luke Goody, this seems ironic. Luke Goody says, F. Merez, he chose the enemy. From Luke Goody. Interesting. Thanks, Luke. One more from Jacob. This will be the best passing team since 04-05. Well, the one seed, that lost to Loyola. Why? Rest in peace, Sister Jean. Jacob, that team was really good at passing as well, but there were sequences last night that were really cool. The tricky thing with passing, as always, is not becoming too passive and getting too cute with it. I don't think, though, there's enough shot takers on this team. I don't think that will become too big of an issue. Though I'm sure every now and then in the huddle, Brad will have to be like, hey, quit passing and just shoot the damn thing. If you're open, shoot it. So it was encouraging to see that. There were some good skip passes, a lot of good action out of the middle of the half-court set, and then just kind of like tentacles or spokes on a wheel. Just a guy would be kind of there, a big would be around the free throw line, and then just finding those around or at the top of the key. You're going to see a lot of that with Tommy. Ben did a little bit of that last night. Mirkovic certainly can do it. It's an offense where the big men, I would say, if not facilitating as much as Kylan or Keaton Wagler or Petrovic when he gets in there, I don't think the discrepancy will be that far off. I think you're going to see some really cool offense this year because of what the bigs can do and their skill set. So, promising start. Fun team, I think it'll be. And life's good, Illini fans. We got a 6-3 football team. Not ranked. Probably won't be the rest of the year, but 6-3. Should go 9-3. You got a college basketball team ranked 17. And real quick before I get out of here, KenPom. Good old KenPom. They loved Illinois last night. Yeah, Illinois moved up to number 5. There you go. Not bad. Illinois moved up to number 5 in the rankings. I don't know what they were before that because I forget how you can check that. But offensively, 2nd efficiency offensively and 12th defensively. KenPom does consider your opponent. Jackson State, 265. Florida Gulf Coast, 189. Texas Tech, 13. Here's the good news. If Illinois were to win all the games in which they were favored the rest of the year, according to KenPom, they would lose 2 games. 2. They would be 29-2. We know that's not going to happen. That's okay. So what KenPom does is for a lot of those close games, those 50-50, they say, okay, you're going to win half, you're going to lose half. They have Illinois 24-7, 15-5 in conference. I don't know if that would give you a Big Ten title, but it would have you within conversation. To give you an example, Purdue they have as the 2nd best team in KenPom, and they have them finishing also 15-5 in conference. So you got a shot in what's going to be a really good Big Ten. But right now, they have you as the 2nd best team in the Big Ten behind Purdue. Michigan at number 9. They will be good. What a bummer. And Wisconsin at 18. How Greg Gard does it, I don't understand. I don't get it, but a discussion for another day. All right, y'all. Thank you all for tuning in. Oh, real quick, Justin, is David Georgie with a better skill set? Yes. And Justin clarifies, Illinois was 6th in KenPom. They move up a spot. So KenPom liked him anyway. All right, before I get out of here, reminder to support us in our 500th episode. 500th episode. We are not here without our sponsors. They make doing this. It's fun anyways, but it's really cool to have these local places as part of this deal. So for those listening, watching, please support them. That includes Hamilton Walkers in downtown Champaign, Steak, Seafood, and Spirits, right in the heart of downtown Champaign, whether it's an informal or formal dinner, date night with a partner, or maybe pre or post-game meal. Hamilton Walkers in downtown Champaign. State Farm agent Brian Hansen, online at brianismyguy.com. Life, auto, home, business renters, you name it. brianismyguy.com. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend. Give them a call at 217-841-4728 and join their maintenance program. No overtime or weekend fees. Furnace check in the fall, AC check in the spring. We've been doing it for 3 years. Can't recommend it enough. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing. And Owen Builders LLC, online at owenbuildersllc.com for your next home improvement project. Check out a gallery of their work online at owenbuildersllc.com. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in on this Tuesday evening. We will be back Friday evening for the second half of the podcast, or the second half of the Illini game. That's the goal. If not, we do it Saturday morning, but I think we'll knock out a second half pod. We got to get grease up the wheels before Texas Tech. And then next week, it'll be Texas Tech second half pod. Maybe we get one in before the Illinois game, the Illinois-Maryland game on that Saturday. I don't know how much pregame to really talk about that because Maryland sucks. They're really bad. Mike Loxley might not even be their coach by then. So we'll see. But regardless, it's busy season in the best way possible. So let's have a good November. Let's finish 9-3. Let's beat some of these bigger teams in the college basketball schedule and keep on rolling, man. In the words of Fred Durst. All right. We will see y'all Friday evening. It is the 200